Good afternoon and welcome to CDBG Advisory Committee Special Meeting of date of August 28, 2024. Roll call, please.
Committee members Armenian, absent. Garibian.
Here.
Quinones Gabrielian.
Here.
Vice Chair Manukian.
Present.
And Chair Avedisian.
Here.
Okay, the agenda for the August 28, 2024 special meeting of the CDBG Advisory Committee was posted on or before Tuesday, August 27, 2024 on the bulletin board outside City Hall. Chair Avedisian, members of the committee, staff would like to request taking two items out of order, beginning with item 4B and then 5B, if that's okay.
4B and 5B,
Yes.
taken out of order. Are we
Yes.
bringing up?
Bringing them up, taking them
Okay.
now.
If no objections from the committee members? We're good.
Okay, I'll read 4B into the record. 4B, summary and status of active year-to-date CDBG capital improvement projects. Can you turn on your mic? Sorry.
I'll repeat that. Chair Avedisian, members of the CDBG Advisory Committee, I'm going to be introducing Tamar Kabanjan, who will be presenting the report for CIP updates. She's our administrative associate. Tamar?
Thank you.
Good afternoon, CDBG Chair, CDBG committee members, and city staff. Okay. The first portion of my presentation to you is city CIP projects, Pacific Park Natural Grass Project, Pacific Edison Artificial Turf Replacement Project, Pacific Park Playground and Pool Shade Structure Improvement Project, and Pacific Park Splash Pad Project. Community CIP projects. Fiscal year 2024 to 2025, we have Glendale Community Center's roofing project for Catholic Charities of Los Angeles. We also have bathroom renovation project for Home Invent at our main campus. The two projects that was canceled was first Community Services Center's CIP for Vertigo Hills Council Boy Scouts. Our second cancellation was for Lexington CIP building, YWCF Glendale and Pasadena. Fiscal year 2021 to 2022, we have first floor all-inclusive locker room project, YMCF Glendale funded in various program years. We also have Elma House CIP Camp Center, which we completed. We also have Glendale Youth Center CIP Armenian Cultural Foundation. Fiscal year 2020 to 2021, we have roofing project Home Invent at our main campus. And the second portion for the Home Invent at our main campus is the HVAC. Okay, for city CIP projects, Pacific Park Natural Grass Project, highlight dashed in red for you is the area. Okay, total available budget for this project is $1,387,042. The scope includes natural turf as a choice of service for the field, excavation of existing grass and 6 to 8 inches of soil, installation of new drainage system, new catch basins for water percolation, incorporating new balanced soil, installation of irrigation system, laser grading, sod installation, installation of new bases, extending the fence. Completion of the ball field layout. Status to report to you is David Wall's design landscape architects will be providing the 90% drawings submitted to the city by the end of August 2024 for a constructability review. With 100% construction drawings and completion of plan check anticipated fall of 2024. Construction is anticipated to start in the first quarter of 2025 and completed by fall of 2025. Okay, next we have Pacific Edison Artificial Turf Replacement Project. Dashed is the area of the scope. Okay. Total available budget for this project is $500,000. Scope includes replacement of artificial turf field of Pacific Park Edison Elementary multipurpose field, improving field drainage to address stormwater runoff issues, increasing the north fence height for safety purposes, addressing specular seating conflicts with field use, new privacy screening and new field stripping evaluation of the current turf system performed to determine ideal solution for field sensitivity to switch to organic infill options. Status to report to you is kickoff meeting held on June 10, 2024 with CSP and GUSD staff to discuss project goals, standards, and requirements. Anticipated that 100% construction drawings can be completed in 6 to 8 months. Goal of starting construction in summer 2025, project completion by December 31, 2025. Our next project is Pacific Park Playground and Pool Shade Structure Project. There are 3 areas. The upper portion is installation of 1 shade structure. The area in the middle is installation of 1 shade structure as well. And the area between the pool and the playground is installation of 3 shade structures. CDBG funded this project $166,842. Status to report to you is ARC Construction is the general contractor we are working with. Work at the pool was mostly completed and open to the public again. Mid-June 2024 with the pool, replastering, deck cleaning, and new concrete deck areas completed. The project construction is anticipated being finished and the playground opened again by the end of September 2024. We have Pacific Park Splash Pad project. Dash is the area of the splash pad area, and I have the recent construction photos on the right. At the time, they were working on the plumbing of the splash pad. CDBG funded this project $1,385,812. The scope was to replace the 14-year-old damaged splash pad into a better system splash pad, updating surfacing, water filtered, and recirculated per LA County public health requirements. Status to report to you is ARC Construction is the general contractor we are working with. Construction at the playground is well underway with the playground nearly completed, installed, and splash pad being installed July 2024. The restrooms and shade canopies will be finished in August-September 2024. The project construction is anticipated being finished and playground opened again end of September 2024. Next portion to my presentation is community agency CIP projects. First, we have Catholic Charities of Los Angeles. I have some images for you to show you how much of a damage the roofing has for Catholic Charities. We have interior photo. They have leaks. This is the steel corrosion, roof leaks, water ponding. Every time that it rains, the building has leaks. Total CDBG funding for this project is $268,100. We are only involved into their phase 1 part of the project, which is demo and disposal of 7,560 square feet, existing roof system, installation of mid-roof cool system with 20-year warranty, testing, inspections, electrical abandonment, mechanical relocation, roof installation, and adding crickets. A status to report to use agency was awarded CDBG funding on July 1, 2024. Project is an environmental phase. We are currently working with the agency to complete our city contract. Agency has obtained city permit drawings and is ready to move into bidding phase once our contract is finalized. Bidding phase will take place hopefully fall of 2024. Next, we have Homeman Auto Main Campus Bathroom Renovation Project. The campus was built 1960s and is 65,000 square feet. With 35,000 square feet facility space, serving 260 members. This space is for basketball, games, volleyball, indoor soccer, gymnastics, martial arts, and table tennis. CDBG funded this project $433,540. The scope includes 6 restroom upgrade to ADA compliance. It requires some testings, replacements of underground drain line system to connect to main drain, new gas lines, plumbing fixtures, 16 commercial water closets, faucets and finishes of the restrooms. It includes wiring, GFCI plugs and switches, commercial exhaust fans and ducting system. It also includes, of course, painting and finishes of gypsum board, tiling work. Status to report to use agency was awarded CDBG funding on July 1, 2024. Project is currently in environmental phase. We are working with the agency to complete our contract. Agency is working with architect also to complete their required drawings for permitting. Permitting process will take place hopefully winter of 2024. Our first cancellation is Community Services Center CIP for Vertigo Hills Council Boy Scouts. They canceled their project and returned their fundings of $92,696. Okay, next cancellation is Lexington CIP building for YWCA of Glendale and Pasadena. The agency returned their fundings of $377,883.50. Okay, YMCA of Glendale, we completed the construction project, first floor all-inclusive locker room. We were excited to celebrate our completion with the red ribbon cutting. The red ribbon cutting was August 1st. And here is some pictures of the completion project, which turned out really nice. We have the new locker room area. We have family change ADA restroom, as well as the shower areas. Okay. Total CDBG funding for this project was $1,125,000 from various program years. A status to report use notice of completion was processed with LA County and awaiting review. We are waiting on final completion of certificate. Agency is returning to CDBG Advisory Committee to request additional CDBG CIP fundings to complete project obligations. I'm not sure if you want to add any notes since you were involved with the red ribbon cutting, if you have any comments to make.
Should we do it now or do it after she finishes the report?
Chair Avedisian, members of the advisory committee, you are going to see more slides coming up, and you might want to ask that question of both agencies who are both here with their representation, I believe. So
Okay,
I would wait
sounds
until
good.
the end.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, we also completed Campbell Center Elma House CIP. This was a newsletter that the agency sent out. Elma renovations complete, residents feel like royalty. When we saw this project, it was a very unhealthy environment. There were many defects to this building. There were water damage, including framing damage, mold found in the shower area, kitchen, gaps around the windows, not ADA compliance, damaged floor, including broken tiles. Door hitting the toilet due to spacing is a photo on the second one from the right. Uneven ground in the kitchen area. And in this house, there were 5 adults who live here, intellectual and development disabilities. Plus, there's 2 staff members who stay with them. It was really unsafe. So we were able to take on this project and complete and overcome all the challenges. So I like to thank the contractor and the agency, Bedrock Construction, who overcame many of these water damages and found solutions to them. Now the residents have a safe environment to live in, to sleep, and to prepare their food. So they are happy and excited to be using their new restrooms and the kitchen area. Okay. CDBG funded this project $497,858. And again, the scope was the kitchen area, the restrooms per ADA compliance. We did their roofs, as the house roof, as well as the garage roof, and the earthquake retrofitting, knee bracing under floor crawl space. Status report to use certificate of completion from LA County was filed and complete. So we are done with this, happily done with this project. Next, we have Armenian Cultural Foundation Glendale Youth Center CIP. CDBG funded this project $116,000. We decided to organize this project into phases. The first phase includes phase 1, 500 square feet, library area remodel, which is to just do some repair work, updates for kids to come do their homeworks and assignments. So the scope includes repair substrate as needed, remove water fountain, patch and repair walls, install new flooring including hallway area, paint all walls and ceiling, remove existing light fixtures and add new light fixtures, wiring as needed, install built-in shelving, acoustical panels, and add new yawning to protect the entrance. Phase 2 involves installation of new security cameras. Scope is to remove and replace 11 exterior security cameras, remove and replace 17 interior security cameras, add 4 cameras to cover blind spots. Phase 3 includes access control, replacement of 20 locks, wireless locks, replacement of 20 locks to first, second, and third floor rooms and storage areas. Status to report to you: contract with agency has been executed by city. Agency currently working on design. City and agency working to prepare project for bid phase. Next is Home and Van Audit Chapter Roofing Project, main campus. I have the before and after photos for you. And the after photos is we completed this construction project. We overcame challenges, change orders, and we did, as you can see, the solar panels are reinstalled back with the stands and the polyurethane spray foaming roofing in the photo. CDBG funded this project $542,401. And the scope was to replacement of 3 main areas of the roof at the main campus, removal, reinstallation of CDBG funded solar PV, clean and prep existing roof for polyurethane spray, foam roofing. Status to report to you is project is completed, and notice of completion is forthcoming. A note to you is agencies return to CDBG Advisory Committee to request additional CDBG CIP funding to complete and move forward with their obligations. This is the phase 2 of Home and Van, which is the HVAC system. And as you can see, we completed, we installed the HVAC systems. So now all the spaces have the required temperature. Okay, CDBG funded HVAC $200,000, and status to report to you is we have completed the work. Notice of completion is forthcoming with the roofing. And if there's any technical questions, the agencies are here to answer you.
Okay, thank
Any
you.
questions for me?
Thank you for the report. Anyone has questions?
Tamar, just quickly on Pacific Park completion date. Maybe I didn't see it right. The completion date is 4 to 6 months from now, but the date is available was end of 2025. Can you go back to the dates for Pacific Park? The turf. I'm sorry, the turf.
Oh,
No, just go back one.
This one.
Is this it?
this one?
Yeah, go to the dates.
December 25th.
I see. Okay, I just got confused with the construction drawing dates versus completion dates. So, thank you.
Okay, any other questions from Tamar?
Not question, just a comment, because at first I thought it was a 5-year timeline, but we have up to 7 years to complete it. And so all of those city projects are going into their 6th year, right? So,
We're almost
Just-
on it.
yeah, we're almost out of time, but
That's an excellent question, Committee Member Quinones Gabrielian. We are lucky that the Pacific Park Pool and Shade Structure Project, along with the splash pad, which we look at as one entity, one larger project, it is in construction phase. We shall be done with it very soon, and we are invoicing as we speak. So we're basically almost done.
Okay, Mr. Garvin?
The cancellation on Boy Scouts, and I read the emails from YWCA and the Boy Scouts. I saw the excuse why they canceled, but I didn't see the YWCA's reason.
They changed their scope of work, a scope of project itself.
Yeah.
So they decided to cancel and either to move forward with their own fundings, or I don't know. I don't know what action they're taking. Yeah.
Chair Avedisi and members of the advisory committee, Committee Member Garibian, that's a great question to ask. They did change their scope of work, and part of why they canceled their project was because they received congressional grant funding from Adam Schiff's office, and they felt that that funding would help them seek their project completion a lot faster than waiting on CDBG and their other funding sources that they had.
And just as a record, the Boy Scouts, they canceled because they started early. Is that what the reason was?
I'll be more than happy to answer that one as well. The Boy Scouts had lost their executive director. He had moved to a different Boy Scout location, and in doing so, the time frame that they had to complete the Boy Scout renovation project, because it was a larger renovation project. We were just going to handle the elevator ADA part of a larger scope. And in doing so, that the new folks that were in charge had already started with a general contractor and moved so quickly forward that they didn't realize that CDBG has certain guidelines and restrictions, and they didn't work with us on that. And then they came to realize that I believe it's about 98,000, just wasn't worth it. So they decided to return those funds and just stay with the greater project that they had.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, do we have any comments for the organizations? Thank you, Tamar. Appreciate it. As always, great work. I mean, you leave us no questions to be asked, pretty much. Comments, anybody, for the organizations? I know we have YMCA representative here and our amendment. So, Ms. Garvin, go ahead.
As far as YMCA, I was not present at the time of the celebration, but I did go visit afterwards. Great job, beautiful facilities, good job. I'm sure, definitely. I see the traffic, I drive by there often, and I see the amount of traffic that you have, that people are using your facilities, so great. Same thank you to Arat for inviting us to check the facilities. Great job, the roof is great, so that's gonna go on, especially the AC. I'm sure it's cooler than where I am now, so it's great. So good job for both of you guys.
Thank you. Anybody else? No? Go ahead.
I just want to add my congratulations to both organizations and continued success. I've seen the YWCA's. I've yet to visit Home and Men, so I'd love to do that as well.
Okay, thank you. Aura, do you have a comment?
Quick comment. I attended both of the openings, and I was very impressed with the quality of the work and the thought that went into both projects. So I congratulate both organizations for doing a good job and serving the community.
Thank you. I'm going to echo with my colleagues. YMCA, especially from what it was before, that I had seen before, and what it is today. It's a great achievement. It's a beautiful project, and I'm 100% sure that the community at large is going to enjoy these facilities and do it with the safety and no concerns of any kind of issues. So congratulations to YMCA, and it's all the board members, the staff, and everyone that was part of it. I'll go with the same thing with the home improvement or the roof project and the air conditioning. Working on it was a long time. Finally, it's done. I noticed that structurally they had done some work also to make sure the roof is solid and it's going to hold on everything, all the brand new facility, the air conditioning units and the solar panels. And I even suggested when we were visiting, the roof was so solid that they may even have small events on the roof. That's a joke. But the roof looked so clean and solid that you may even think about that. But congratulations, both of you. Continue to do what you do best. Thank you. What's next, please?
Next, we'd like to go to item 5B, reprogramming $724,949.63 in returned CDBG capital improvement project funds from various program years. At one is a motion providing direction to staff on reprogramming $724,949.63 from Boy Scouts Community Center CIP 2324 for $92,696, YWCA Lexington CIP 2223, and undesignated fund balance of $254,370.13 in return CDBG capital improvement project funds from various program years.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Iris.
Ms. Calvario.
Chair Avedissian, members of the advisory committee, we have a PowerPoint presentation for you to lay out the reprogramming of $724,000 in return funding for CIP, and these are from various program years. We touched upon these two agencies in the earlier presentation. So the YWCA of Glendale and Pasadena returned their funding of $377,883 on March 6th of this year. And then the following week, Verdugo Hills Council Boy Scouts returned their $95,113 in funding on March 13th. When we had met at the March 4th CDBG Advisory Committee meeting with the interviews that we had scheduled with our CIP proposals for 24-25, we had left some money on the table, and the advisory committee had suggested we leave it undesignated, come back at the August meeting and reprogram those funds. At the time of the meeting, it was around $230,000 because we hadn't received the final HUD allocations. After we received the final HUD allocations, the total number is $254,370.13. At this time, we have $724,949.63 to reprogram. So we have some funding considerations. On June 10th, we reached out to CIP fund, we communicated with CIP funding availability to our community agencies who qualified, and we had based it on following criteria. We had two criteria: agencies with currently funded projects that are in construction, and those two agencies were Home Minutemen with the roofing and HVAC, as you had seen earlier, and YMCA with their all-inclusive locker room. We also reached out to agencies who had submitted a proposal for 24-25, and those agencies were Door of Hope, that was not funded in 24-25, Catholic Charities of Los Angeles, which was fully funded in 24-25, and Home Minutemen Glendale Ararat for their bathroom renovation project, which was funded in 24-25. We reached out to all of these agencies asking them if they were interested in these reprogram funds for use in these particular projects. Now, the reason for the criteria was based on community agencies having the most recent general contractor estimate in place, and or if they were currently in construction and were able to use the funds to complete the project, because timeliness is our greatest issue. That being said, we received 3 letters of interest. Door of Hope, their Door of Hope DV Transitional Housing Expansion Project, which is considered Phase 1. They haven't received any money from CDBG to date for this particular project. They had made a request of $500,000. They are going to be leveraging $1.7 million, and their total project cost is $2.2 million. The next was Home Minutemen Glendale Ararat roofing and HVAC project, And to date, they've received $742,000. They're requesting $351,000. They've leveraged $356,920, and their total project cost to date is $1.4 million. Next, we have the YMCA of Glendale First Floor Locker Room Project. They've received about $1.125 million from CDBG funds. They are back to request $314,000. They are leveraging $311,898, and the total project cost is $1.751 million. It's also to let everyone know, Catholic Charities did not request additional funds. They did not submit a letter of interest. So we want to give the advisory committee some potential reprogramming scenarios. Now, this report was done a few weeks ago, and scenario one, Door of Hope, we wanted to let you know that Door of Hope had a meeting with our Community Development Housing Division, and they were told that there might be funds available to them to fund all 3 phases of their project, because they came to us for CDBG for phase 1, but there are 3 phases to their project. We had met with them on this Monday, this particular Monday, with the CDBG staff and the Housing Division staff. And it seems that what Door of Hope would like to do right now is withdraw their request for $500,000 and seek out funds from the Housing Division, because they will most likely be able to get all 3 phases completed. If not, they'd still like to be considered in the fall and winter months. They might come back with a proposal if that's not the case. So at this time, scenario 1 is definitely the scenario we're going to go with. It's Homenetmen Ararat asking for their funding, YMCA with a total request of $665,819, which will leave us with an excess of $59,130. Scenario 2 is no longer on the table because we've already been informed that Door of Hope has withdrawn their submission. Let me go over the allocation and timeline in case it is important at this point, especially for timing and invoicing for agencies. So the timeline is based on funding recommendations provided by the committee today and how you decide to reprogram. Now, once you give us your direction, we will take a report to the City Council and the Housing Authority and to approve a substantial amendment to the final funding recommendations. Then we will have contract amendments signed and processed by city staff and routed through signature so the agencies can update their contracts, and then agencies will continue to invoice the remaining funds if they are to get them today. Fiscal impact. This is really important because CDBG program has a timeliness requirement by HUD to spend down funds. A grantee must carry out the program in a timely manner, which is measured by a rate of expenditure of funds from our line of credit. And City of Glendale must have a balance no greater than 1.5 times our annual entitlement, 60 days prior to the end of the program year. I will say we have been untimely for the past 2 years, and that we would like to see allocating reprogram funds to projects that are already in construction means they'll move along faster and the money will be drawn down. And that would help us as a city to be timely. That concludes my presentation. If you have any questions for staff or for the agencies who are requesting additional funds, this is a good time to ask. Thank you.
Okay. Everybody, I think every one of us have questions. This time I'm going to jump first, because normally they ask the questions and I don't have nothing to ask anymore. First of all, thank you for the report. Very informative, very detailed. I think you answered some of my questions, or one of my questions, about the timeline and when and how the money has to be spent down, so we're not in default with HUD. That's done. Now, asking the funds that they're requesting, the both agencies are requesting, these are the projects that's already work or pretty much done. They're paying up what the monies that they were leveraging additional to, Now they're leveraging, they want these funds to help them reduce their basically cost off from their own leveraged amounts, correct, to pay down? Or it's additional to additional projects or roof or things that they're going to do?
Chair Avedis and members of the advisory committee, these are wonderful questions to ask, and they should be asked of the agencies themselves, because we do have invoices in the pipeline that we have that we are going to reimburse the agency, but we can't tell you 100% if they've reimbursed their contractor yet. So this might be a good time to ask the
Okay.
agencies that question.
Either agency, whoever wants to come forward. Both of you can answer, but doesn't matter.
Good afternoon, Chairman and committee members. My name is George Saikali. I'm the CEO at the YMCA in Glendale. I'm trying to address the question that the chair just asked. We are done, but we have a retainer that we have not paid the contractor yet. Part of the CDBG funding is you keep 10% until the end, but we've used the funds, and right now, if we did not have this proposal for consideration, I will fall into liquidating endowment fund.
Nice.
We got in the middle of it. We had so many surprises, as Tamar will tell you, 47 change orders we had to go. Once you open walls, you don't know what's behind it. Our board has a commitment to finish it, and that was the plan.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next step. Oh, you have a question? Mr. George, why don't you stop? Follow-up questions, then, sorry.
So that you're not going back and forth. So I did notice that you have, your total request is $314,767. The change orders comprise $123,591. So my question to you and maybe staff is that, other than the change orders, $190,000, that seems to be just regular costs. Was that because the cost of construction went up, or is it because the organization is leveraging less? Because I don't have in front of me the original construction price. So are we just adding $123,000 to that construction price and they're leveraging less? Or did the original scope go up and you had change orders? That's my question.
I think both. Both. We ended up with surprises like I needed to move. We found out we had lead in one corner of the bathrooms, and we had to do the whole area, and that was about $27,000. We had to remove phone lines. We had to remove the annunciator for the fire department and reconnect everything. All these things were not part of the original scope. And so in addition that it did cost more, we had surprises in that we had to pay for.
So the total cost from what was presented to us when we decided to fund, the original scope went up and you had change orders?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Thank
Okay. Question, follow-up? Hold on.
Just a clarification, because actually, my question, you've already asked the question I was going to ask, but you mentioned 47 change orders, and we have 38 change orders in our documentation. So I just wondered if there had been even more since this was prepared.
I think we started with 47, but she did an edit on them, and they're 37,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Good.
I'm sorry, I'd like to clarify. The change orders might not necessarily means it's due to cost. It might mean material change. The cost is the same. So just because it's a change order, that doesn't mean it's the contractor is charging us.
Yeah.
It might be a $2,000 credit. And the next change order might be a question on the drawing itself between the architect and the contractor. So yeah, that's why the numbers are different from change order.
Bottom line is, it's more expensive. So we're funding the additional cost due to changes and surprises, but there's no additional scope to the work.
No, that's
Okay,
correct.
That's good.
correct.
Thank you.
Any other question?
Hi, George.
Hi.
Good to see you again. So I guess just follow up on everyone's. I think it's not just a change order, as Tamar mentioned, so about 314,000. That's the change amount, total increase you had, not just the 123,000 in change orders.
Correct.
Everything else line item, signage, plumbing, electric, and all that stuff. So if we don't fund, you're out of pocket how much? 600 change, is that what it is?
I think we did raise money, 300 plus, that went into the project, and the rest, as I stated, the board made a commitment to finish the project. We weren't gonna stop in the middle. So we took some of our reserve funds, and now we still have the retainer and other things. We're willing to do the same if needed to.
So
But I
new
hope you'll take
out-of-pocket,
our
it's-
request under consideration.
So 600 change is the out-of-pocket amount, the leverage
Yes.
amount? Okay, that's all, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No, for George? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Have a great afternoon.
I guess same questions will go with amendment. If you have, Tamar, you have something to mention? No? Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
Good afternoon. So just a recap of the numbers that we had. When we originally applied for those two projects, the total was $300,000, and that was before pandemic. So we came back after pandemic, and we couldn't get, Mrs. Kabajan will remember, we had no success in bid. Nobody would even touch the project. So anyway, so finally we got a proposal from Bedrock Construction for $940,000, but the available funds for us was $742. So right off the bat, we were short $200,000, which we said we would leverage. I mean, we put some money aside. We said we would leverage that. So we started the project with already $200,000 shortfall, and then we had some change orders, which were $153,000. So now our shortfall was $351,000, which we are requesting now to be funded. So the change orders were mainly due to a few things. One was the solars, that we had to move them, in order to do the roofing, and the bases that we needed to use now completely different than what was used 10, 12 years ago. So they were more expensive. I think we spent almost 30 times, almost $35,000, $40,000 just for bases that were not, included in the original estimation. Also, we had some issues with the air conditioning units, because when we applied back in 2018 and 19, there were certain problems with certain units, and they were mostly the smaller ones. By the time we got to the project, we had to switch those units, because the small ones, we had to replace them at some point, and now we needed the larger units. So the price went up a little bit as far as the air conditioning and solar system. So right off there, we were short $351,000. Then we started the project, and all of a sudden we had all kinds of issues that we leveraged that too so far. So our leveraged amount is $707,000 right now, because as far as the roofing, we had to replace 50% of the the plywood, because it was bad, especially with the last year and a half, 2 years of rain, while the roof was already damaged. So it kind of deteriorated the roof much more. So our out-of-pocket cost went up. So $707,000 so far, it's out of our pocket. We have invoices to pay to the contractor, and we're hoping if we can be considered for this $351,000, it would help bring down our, out-of-pocket expense. We did some fundraising, about close to 150. So we're hoping our end result will be the same that we were talking about, 200 to 250,000 leveraging ourselves.
Okay, thank you. Questions, follow-up?
Just a follow-up, I think, for both. We're very fortunate we're in this particular position. And, for us, CDBG with HUD funding and two organizations that really need it, and not having to make sacrifices with any other organizations. I know they're out there, but it takes hard work to come here and ask, for the money, and also work through all of the reporting requirements. So thank you for doing that, and we're just very fortunate to be in this position.
Yes, thank you. Go ahead.
I want to piggyback on the last comment, not necessarily for our, but for the staff as well. Yeah, we're not we can't guarantee that we have money in the bank to be able to cover these change orders or excesses. And so I would suggest that maybe we look closer to the contingency percentage in the original submissions, and the organization's ability to leverage. Because, I mean, just dirty math, I think that the change order alone, not the other contractual part, was 16% of the home and admin, the $940,000 original price. And now we're looking, I mean, there's a $500,000 difference between the 940. I didn't know, thank you for that figure, because I didn't have it in my paperwork, how much was the original contract. But between then and now, $500,000 is a lot. So I think that we have to be more diligent in the organizations who present the request for funding and the staff to make sure there's enough cushion, because I'm afraid we won't be in this lucky situation where we can cover.
True.
And I really think that it's because of what happened over the last 4 years. So we were in a very unique situation, you know. But again, this is fortunate. This is fortunate for now. We've never been in this position. So I doubt that it's going to repeat itself.
Yeah, well,
Hopefully not.
go ahead, Ms. Garvin.
Thank you, Seiji. Great job. I don't have any questions for you. I appreciate it, but I have questions for staff and just follow up on some of my colleagues moving forward with policies. Change orders, first of
Hold
all.
on one second. If we're done with,
I said thank you, yes.
Oh,
you're done
yeah.
with them? So
Thank you for helping us, finishing this project. So thank you, staff, and thank you, the committee.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck. Okay, go
So,
ahead now,
when
please.
it
To
comes
the
to
staff.
change orders, they send you approval process. What's that process of change order approval before I go to the next question?
That's a very good question. When the bid packages are given to the agencies, staff is there with them to review. Agencies have to provide leverage. That's truly what it is. They have to be able to provide the leverage and know that unforeseen costs will come up, most likely, and you see that in both our agencies. That's something that is conveyed to them over and over again. And it is important to let the committee also know that when it does come time for our proposal interviews, it is good to fully fund projects, because sometimes agencies will want to get that funding and will take a reduced number, but then they'll always come back because the prices do keep going up. They do, and then those unforeseen things do come up. That being said, change orders come up during construction. It's been September of last year, I believe, for YMCA, and 36 change orders since. So every month, something new comes up as you dig deeper and dig deeper into the project. So this is something that like I said, has been conveyed to the agencies, and hopefully in future years, they understand that they should have leverage to help their project along.
Yes, I'm sorry. So we have nothing to do with the change orders as they come in. It's agencies' issue.
Correct.
They have to leverage it themselves. We
well-
don't care how much and what it is. I mean, you don't look into it.
We do request that they have a account set up with, in their agency should have an account, a separate set-aside account set up for their construction projects, and to be able to have a line of credit in that account. But again, this is capacity. Most agencies don't have that capacity.
So going back again as policy moving forward, I'm thinking, depending on the job, like for example, roof, it's one of those things you don't know what's underneath and it needs to be lifted. So maybe we can ask for more reserves or things as such versus depending what it is. If you're doing a brand new project, you're not really running too much surprises versus remodeling projects, especially if it's a plumbing, you have to open up walls, you don't know what's inside, mold or such things. So that's where we need to make sure we fund them fully if possible, and also have them have more reserves and more studies. Because on Cali Charities, the project that is coming up, like I saw the bid, and then they're going to start bidding, right? So from original construction bid they had, but 2 years passed by the time they get someone else? I mean, it's been, so
Right.
they could be short.
Well, their bid came in during this proposal cycle, so their bid came in January. And their bid came in, funny enough, with the YMCA's contractor. And they were nice enough to go out and do that with the Davis-Bacon wage rate. So they have a pretty good estimate in place. They've also reduced their scope of work because this is the same project that was brought to us, and then they canceled the project, and then they came back to us. So they've reduced their scope of work. They now understand and are focused on one part of that Glendale Community Center, which is the roof itself. So they feel confident that that money that they have, and then the reserves that the Catholic Charities of Los Angeles has, will be able to push the project through and to close it successfully.
Thank you. One question, actually, I have policy somewhat. I know it's 10% what the reserves that we have on each contract. That's pretty much standard in generally speaking. Is there a law or anything prohibiting us requesting or in any way that 10% be 15% or whatnot, that to make sure that that amount is sometimes, it doesn't happen what there happens.
That's a good question. I'd have to look into that with our legal department. I know that the city's retention is 5%, is it not? Not 10%.
Retention or contingency?
I'm sorry, the retention.
Retention.
Oh, I think
You're
you're
talking
talking
about
about
retention?
contingency.
Or
Contingency
oh,
dollars.
contingent-
Contingency
oh, I'm
dollars, yes, sorry.
contingency. We'd have to look into it and see.
But that would
I
be
couldn't
something
have-
that maybe we should look into it for the next meeting, maybe, before the next proposals come in. So if there is a way, a possibility, maybe that will help the agencies to a certain level to at least know where they're going from get-go. And the surprises in any construction project that's going to happen, no matter what. As much as we want to be safe and do as detailed as we can, but still we'll have it. You had a question?
I had a
or
follow-up
comment?
question regarding the change orders. So I realize the change orders go to the organization, but does staff at all assist the organization to analyze whether it is a true change, or is that part of the original scope? Because a lot of times, I mean, with no disrespect to contractors, but if they can make something that's a change order, they make more money. So somebody has to be able to review that and say, is this, or the architect, is this part of the original scope, or is this truly an extra? Do we give them any assistance?
Yes, well, change order, once it's submitted by the contractor, we usually have construction meetings, and it's signed off by the executive director of the agency and the contractor itself. Yes, we do review, and we do walk them through.
Thank you.
President Avedisian,
Sorry.
members of the commission, just in general, and I apologize, but just to make a general comment, and I'm not sure if this might address your question, is historically, we the city will, of course, work with the agencies and we'll look at the scope of work. But if they are doing change orders and the cost of what was part of the original scope is increasing, generally, it's expected that the agency is going to leverage that. Like you all said, it's rare that we're in this type of a situation where CDBG has additional funds to be able to offer. And it's also rare for us to be in a situation where the city has to spend down the funds in a timely manner, and the expenditure timeline being so where we as staff could feel comfortable recommending that we put the funds towards an existing project versus have time to RFP it. So as we mentioned at the last meeting, one of the options could have been for us to go out for an RFP, but we also are tight on timeline and we need to spend down the funds. And these two are projects that are already at that point where they've either spent the money or are about to spend it because they have punch list items that they need to complete in order to issue that final notice of completion. So although we as staff do work closely with the agencies, if the costs go up, if they can't afford to leverage it, it's up to them to adjust their scope and leave out something because they've opened the wall and they can no longer afford to do these other items that were part of their scope because this is more important. So in general, that's kind of, we work closely with them, and we don't assure them that there will be more funding to give because there generally isn't. And to be honest, I could probably speak for Tamar and Maggie and the agencies to say that as they were going through these change orders, they weren't necessarily aware that there was going to be additional funds. So, you know, as they said, they're going to have to tap into some sort of savings to be able to, or eliminate funds from another program or a project that they may have had set aside to be able to pay for this. And so overall, I think we're just in a good year where the city needs to spend down the funds quickly because of the timeliness issue, and their projects ended in the perfect time where they're able to come back and request the funds. So call it luck on both ends, but it is a benefit. So generally, we wouldn't necessarily be here asking for more funds for projects that went over project budget because it would be up to the agencies to have to find that money and leverage it. So although we do work closely with them, we won't stop them from doing a change order if it's part of the original scope because it's essentially their responsibility to pay for that increased cost. So if it's changing the scope, like if they're, you know, adding things that weren't part of the original proposal, depending on what it is exactly that they're adjusting, we might bring it back to you because obviously when they presented that project scope, it was this and this is what you agreed to fund. And if it becomes this, then it's up to you to say, you know, should CDBG be spending that money? But if they go from this to this, they'd have to pay for that difference. So as long as they're not using CDBG funds and the CDBG funds are being used for the scope that we identified, we would generally be okay with that. So hopefully that kind of, you know, so yes, it's good for us to have contingency, you know, the agencies to have contingency in place just like any other capital improvement project because of those unexpected costs. But if they don't and they do end up running over, then again, it's up to them to find that money for the contingency they should have set aside. So we don't mandate it. We would recommend it, just like any CIP project, but we don't necessarily mandate that they have a contingency in place before we fund it. Now, if we do want to mandate that as part of a policy, we could, because then that will allow you to know that, you know, if it's $1 million project, then we're gonna look at it as $1,100,000, and then you'll see the actual true percentage of leverage, right? That's the only thing that it would help us with, is looking at how much is really being leveraged by the agencies. So that is something we could definitely take back from the committee if we want to see contingency as part of the project proposals, because then it'll allow you to see, you know, if we're expecting $1 million project, then, you know, have that 10% set aside just to see that it's really not $1 million, it's $1,100,000 if you go over, or what that might be. So something for us to look at if you want to mandate it, because then we can make sure that everybody includes that in their proposal. But right now we don't have, some might do 5%, some might do 10%. And we, you know, we meaning the board and staff, look at that as part of the project evaluations.
Thank you. Yeah, you still have a question, sorry.
First of all, I want to say thank you very much, and the discussion for all of the discussion. Yes, it answered a lot of my questions, but I do agree with what Ronnie was saying, that there should be some policy, especially on a multi-year phased project. I mean, that took so many years to complete, because we know that the cost is going to go up. So the percentage, the contingency should be addressed, I think, at the beginning. One other thing that came up was staff mentioned we have cut checks for the organization, but we don't know if they've paid their contractors. At what?
No.
What? Is that what you said? No. Okay, never mind then.
They must.
We must
They
know.
must-
Yes,
no, they
I was going
must
to
pay
go.
their
At
contract.
what point do we know? You know. Okay, so you said we must know, and at the same time you confirmed that they paid their contractors.
So I just want to clarify, for each invoice, we reimburse the agency,
Yes.
after the agency has paid their contract.
After they pay their
So
contract.
basically, for each invoice, before we reimburse the agency, we require two items. One is bank statement and a copy of check that contractor has been paid.
Okay, excellent.
After that
Thank you
phase,
very
we
much.
then reimburse the agencies.
Okay, so this, that you have some, you're sitting on some invoices at this point.
Yes.
That have not yet been paid, and so this will
Not so
alleviate that.
comfortably.
Okay. Whew, okay,
Go ahead,
thank
Mr.
you.
Ron.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for all the detailed explanation. So back to timeliness, we have $59,000, $130.63 excess. Is this going to be the happiest day for our agencies here, or we have other plans for that dollar amount?
That's an excellent question, Committee Member Garibian. We are requesting that we continue with the projects that are in construction be funded, and one of those projects is the Pacific Park Splash Pad. Pacific Park Splash Pad Playground and Shade Structure Project, greater project, is currently in construction. It should be completed by the end of summer, almost into fall. And we would love to have that $59,000 set aside for that project, and knowing that we can also spend that funding down due to the timeliness issue.
So we don't have to come back here anymore, it'll be
We do
spent.
not, we do not. We do actually have, and Iris can pull it up for you, the Excel sheet, the famous Excel sheet that we always use, and this should be, so we'll remove the $500,000 from Door of Hope, as they are not requesting that any longer. And then if we add that $59,130.63 to Pacific Park Splash Pad, $59,130.63. That will get us to the $724,949.63 mark, and everyone gets funded.
Let's see. So the city will be able to use it up with no question, and that project is hopefully will be done and done. We're good. We've been talking about it. I know this project has been going on for a while. The different issues, not necessarily city issues or project issues, but there's so many different changes and things that happen between.
That is correct, Chair Avedisian. We did reach out to the project manager in our Public Works Department, who is overseeing the Pacific Park Splash Pad project, and they gave us a list of items that could potentially use the $59,000, and which have increased the amount of the total project cost. So I can read that to you if you'd like. Due to the complexity and extensive trenching involved, the decision was made to remove the entire existing floor, install the new plumbing, and then pour a new concrete deck. This is part of the restroom and splash pad equipment room to install new plumbing. And then this approach will likely ensure a more efficient and reliable installation. So funding would go towards that.
Sounds good. Thank you. So now at this moment, we're looking for a motion to move forward. Anyone wants
What is
to
the
make a motion?
Should I read the motion? It's the same the way it's written here. Motion providing direction to staff on reprogramming $724,949.63 from Boy Scouts Community Center CIP 2324 $92,696, YWCA Lexington CIP 2223, and undesignated fund balance $254,370.13 in return CDBG capital improvement project funds from various program year. Is that the motion to be granted?
The motion
Be
would be,
granted to scenario 1, Door of Hope, I don't need to read it, yeah. Scenario 1, Hometown Glendale are at $351,052. YMCA of Glendale, $314,767. And City of Glendale project, splash pad for $59,130.63.
I second that.
Can you,
Motion made and second.
I-
Question.
I second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
committee members Armenian absent, Garibian,
Yes.
Quinones Gabrielian,
Yes.
Vice Chair Menuchyan,
Yes.
and Chair Avedisian.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay,
Thank you.
congratulations to both. Best of luck.
Yeah.
All right, what is next, please?
Next, we'll go back to item 2, minutes. At A is approval of the minutes of the March 1st, 2024 CDBG Advisory Committee Special Meeting. At B is approval of the minutes of the March 4th, 2024 CDBG Advisory Committee Special Meeting. And you may choose to do one motion for both or one for each.
Now I'm looking for motion. Anyone wants to approve the minutes, both together?
I'll do a motion for both to approve the minutes for March 1 and March 4, 2024 CDBG Advisory Committee special meetings.
I'll second that.
Second by Garibian.
And I'll take roll call. Committee members, Armenian is absent. Garibian?
Yes.
Quinones Gabrielian?
Yes.
Vice Chair Menuchyan?
Yes.
Chair Avedisian?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. Next is item 3, oral communications. I don't have any cards, and just double check that we have colors. Sorry, the mouse isn't working. No, we do not have any colors. So moving on to item 4, reports information only. At A is Consolidated Plan 2025-2030 for Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, Emergency Solutions Grant, ESG, and Home Investment Partnerships Program update.
Thank you, Iris. Chair Avedisian, members of the advisory committee, can't believe we're back here again, and it's our 5-year anniversary in a sense. We are already starting to work on the 2025-2030 consolidated plan. We come before you each year with our annual action plan, but really what the annual action plan is just a piece of the consolidated plan that we do every 5 years as a requirement of HUD. The City of Glendale's current consolidated plan, the 2020-2025, is up on June 30th, 2025. So this is our final year of our action plan. Now, the submission of the consolidated plan, or the CON plan as we like to refer to it, is a requirement to continue to receive federal HUD entitlement funding. And those funds include CDBG, ESG, which is our Emergency Solutions Grant for Homeless Services, and then the Home Investment Partnership Program, which is home funds, which are for low to moderate income individuals needing housing. And just again, as a piggyback from our last report, that is where Door of Hope is going for funding through the home program. I'm sorry. So the main purposes of the CON plan, the main purpose of the CON plan is to identify the city's housing and community development needs, priorities, and goals, and also to identify other federal, state, local, and county and private funding sources to leverage CDBG, ESG, and home dollars. And then part of that plan is to arrive at a strategic plan that the city will follow annually to address needs, priorities, and goals. Now, the development and the timeline of a CON plan actually started in July of this year. We have hired a consultant who has already started to work on CON plan development. Between August and October, the consultant as well as city staff will be very busy with the preparation of community outreach materials, interviews and outreach efforts with our housing department, homeless services, workforce development, and economic development. And then there's professional consultation efforts. Part of HUD has a requirement of information technology to bridge the digital divide. We have to get information on that. Hazard management, emergency planning, environmental justice, reaching out to hospitals and discussing discharge plans, and talking with our public safety police department, again on the discharge plans. Now, community outreach efforts include reaching out to our nonprofits in the area, various city-sponsored programs and events, and then we're going to be hosting a very large community meeting in October, as well as reaching out to our Glendale Unified School District and getting outreach for our parents and our students who will benefit from these dollars. In October, we will be back here and we will present that report to the committee and present the findings of that report. And between April and May, we will be going to City Council and the Housing Authority to approve the consolidated plan and to submit that to HUD for review and approval. I want to get back into a little bit more into community outreach. Because HUD funds, as you have all seen, every March when you make those decisions, very limited funding. And because of that, as a result, the con plan is going to determine how best to use program funds to achieve the greatest public benefit. It's done so by assessing community needs, setting goals, developing strategies, addressing priorities, and those objectives. Now, goals and objectives establish the con plan, how the con plan is going to guide how our allocations are to be distributed in the next 5 years. And then the con plan development is a consultation with those intended to be the primary beneficiaries, because that's how we look at them. Primary beneficiaries, basically the community at large who are low to moderate income, as well as nonprofit community agencies who serve those low to moderate income individuals in our Glendale area. A little bit about our action plan. The action plan for 25-26 is actually part of the greater consolidated plan. It's actually year one of our consolidated plan. So that will also be submitted as part of the consolidated plan. And the CDBG committee timeline will remain the same. Nothing changes because we're doing the consolidated plan. It's just going to coincide with the development of the first year of the action plan. A little information about our consultant and consulting services. We've hired Veronica Tam and Associates consulting firm who will develop and prepare the 25-30 con plan. This group actually completed our 2020-2025 con plan. We have worked with them before. And they did a really good job in doing so. They are currently working on the preparation of the con plan based on the criteria that HUD has given us. And consultant fees are reimbursed by our 3 programs, so it's not just CDBG that is providing funding for this consultant. It's CDBG, ESG, and Home Administrative Program funding, roughly $14,000 from each program fund that will fund the consultant fees. They have started on a survey. They have completed a first draft of the survey. We can give you a preview if you'd like to see the preview of the survey. It's a community needs survey. They base it again off of HUD criteria and guidelines. We'll be more than happy to show you how that is set up. Our assistant director already found one correction in it, so that's a good thing. Thank you, Iris. So we'll just pretend to take this survey so you may be able to see it. This is what it will look like. If you can press next, Iris. We're starting out with what zip code do you reside in, and then please select the area where you reside or work. And this was a discussion that both Ms. Alexanian and I had with the consultant, because we felt that it's not just the Glendale residents that might give us input, but the people that might not live here but work here that might have input on this plan. So we wanted to include those. And so if we can we reduce that just a little bit? Sure.
If you'd like to do that, I would include not just GUSD for outreach, but the college as well. Because they weren't listed, and I thought they weren't listed because, you know, any student from anywhere can come to our college. But if you're interested in, you know, when they're here studying and in the community, et cetera, we could do the outreach.
Yeah.
We should do the outreach for the college as well.
Thank you so much for that, because we have funded Glendale Community College Foundation
Yes,
before.
yes.
So thank you. Thank you that I can't believe we actually missed that, but that's excellent.
That was-
Perfect
that was
timing
my
for that.
mention.
And so they would, the survey taker would be clicking to see where, and then if you can, Iris, just click on, just pretend to be a Glendale resident, and then we'll just move it along. And we'll be asking how long have you lived or worked in Glendale? So let's put 5, whatever works, and then we'll put next. And then the next question is age. And this, again, number 5.
Maggie, just
Yes.
to go back real quick. So on the questions that we had, if they put no, like they don't live or work in Glendale, I guess we probably should say go to school in Glendale too. And if they click next, it would kick them out and say that they're not allowed to take the survey. So, so if they're not Glendale residents, we'll add a student as well, but the requirement will kick them out if they say, I don't live, work, or attend a school in Glendale.
And then if we can go back to ethnic, sorry, Iris. So ethnic categories is not something that HUD recognizes because it's federal funds, but we, and Ms. Alexandrian and I had discussed this again with the consultant, we felt that we really wanted to see what our ethnic makeup was in Glendale. Therefore, they put in, even though Hispanic and Latino is part of HUD's criteria, Armenian, Filipino, Korean, or other is not. So we really wanted to see that and share that with the committee once we get the results. So we've added ethnic category as a possible, an additional question. And then racial categories, that's a HUD requirement, the basic racial categories. Let's go to next, please. And then what best describes your housing situation? Renter, homeowner, or I'm currently unsheltered. We really wanted to get all 3 groups involved to see who's taking the survey. And then do you currently hold one or more of the following lived experiences? And then you would check all that apply. You can be a caregiver, have a disability, be an immigrant, LGBTQ community member, parent or guardian of a child under 18, and on and on. So we really do want to get, again, an idea of who's taking the survey and who we should be serving with the funding dollars. And then this is really important because this is something that's probably eluded us. How do you prefer to learn about City of Glendale meetings and events to get community updates? We really do want to hear how they want to get information. How do residents want to hear about the information provided, meetings and such? So we.
Do we have texting ability or no?
That's a very good question.
What?
That's a very good question.
Texting.
Texting. We can add that. Let me add that.
If we have the ability, I would add that too.
We will have to follow up to see if the city has that ability, but that is a good point. So I know we have a texting ability for emergency services, but it's through another provider. So we do text out emergency information, and I know GWP texts out information as it relates to your power usage or electric usage. So, but I've never actually seen us use it for community meetings. So that's a really good point. We'll follow up.
No. Yeah, that's it.
And then question number 10 is, again, bridging the digital divide. This is a question that HUD is requiring. Do you have high-speed internet access in your home? This is something that they want to know. Next. And then if you answered yes, who is your internet provider?
Is that requested by HUD?
Correct. So this is something that the consultant put in, it wasn't our request, it was the consultant stating that we need to include that as part of the survey.
I mean, it's now critical infrastructure, so urban development, so, and there are so many efforts out there to bridge the digital divide.
Yeah.
And all of those companies are putting in a lot of money to make sure that that does happen.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
You would know, wouldn't you?
And then question number 10 has to do with our public social services offerings. Ranking the following social services in order of importance to you, one being the highest. So we have all the programs that you've seen in the past, anti-crime crime programs, employment services, homeless services, legal services, mental health services, senior services, services for the disabled, and youth services, and these are in alphabetical order.
Are these also HUD criteria?
These are actually, yes, some of them are, and others are what we felt the city of Glendale has used in the past as programs that we have through our, either through our city or through our nonprofits. Now, if you see anything that's missing, please
Yeah.
let us know, because this is the time to do so.
Domestic violence services? I don't see that. I
Excellent.
mean, a lot of, at least 2 or 3 that we funded has been for that.
Domestic violence,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely.
Okay, excellent. Next.
Are they able, when they're marking the one, the highest and the 4, or the other one up to 8, are they able to mark basically, these are my priorities or my highest needs, is all 4 of them are my first priorities? Is it possible that for them to mark that, in a sense, to give a,
We love this.
Chair Avedisian, Maggie and I are smiling because we go back and forth, and I actually was the one who said that I would like to see that they. Oftentimes, it's difficult for us to say which one should be funded. If the board was, if the committee was to be able to say, okay, what is of most importance in our community, because our funding is limited. So if you allow people to say they're all highest or they're all lowest, then it would be very difficult, or people will just click away just to get past the question. So we wanted to, I think Maggie actually
I've done that.
said this too, is we wanted to allow people to actually think about what is of most importance to them, because although, let's say, senior services might be important and so is youth services, for that year, because this is a 5-year plan, which one is more important? Because if we have only limited funding and we can only fund one of these, which one should we focus on, at least in the year that we're looking at? Because it could shift, right? So this year it might be homeless services, next year it might be youth services, or in 10 years it might be, domestic violence services. I think it's a matter of finding out which one is of highest, but only choosing one and kind of looking at what's your second highest. So we have the ability to adjust the survey, but we felt that it was important to force the survey takers to identify them in order of priority.
I agree with that. It's a good idea, stay focused.
Yeah, sorry, I want to continue. And I agree with what you explained, and I appreciate that. The reasoning saying, like, say I am a senior, which I am, in a way. Don't feel like it, but I'm a senior that I might be interested in senior services and whatnot, but unfortunately at the same time I'm homeless. So those are most important to me as a senior and homeless, that I need to get that service. As a homeless senior, if I don't get either or services, I am basically done. So that's why I'm saying if there is maybe limited to 1 or 2 items per number to be clicked, not all 4 of them, if that might be something that will give you actually that 2 seriously most important than the others.
I think I understand what Chair is mentioning, instead of saying 1, maybe 1 plus. But in the end of the day, I agree with what you're saying, but I also agree with the policy where if everybody has 1, or majority, maybe 4 of them are 1, then it'd be hard to say, okay, which one is more important. If I was taking the survey, and yes, like I say, 1, 2, 3, 4 of them are the highest, but I can't have to pick one, I'll really put more emphasis what it is, even though I disagree with number 2, it's as important, but I'll put it in 2, not on 8. So maybe we'll understand the first 3 are the most important versus number 8 or 7. I mean, I understand, but having all of them in 1, I disagree.
Yeah, they're not. I would limit it. Maybe 2 per an item or per number.
Chair
Just a
Avedissian, I
suggestion.
don't know that we would be able to limit it, and Iris is taking note because she was worked on these surveys enough to know that like the logic behind the survey won't allow us to say you can only choose, let's say, highest priority being one, you can choose 2 items under one, but you have to choose, one item under the other. So it's either open it up and people could choose however many they want, or you force them to prioritize. So in the scenario that you gave, most probably you'd have to decide, is it most important for you to get the homeless services first or the senior services? And then that's kind of what we're trying to force, is people to think about what is of highest importance, because
Again,
And if I may, Ms. Alexanian, we also looked into the data analysis, and basically, they were calling it survey fatigue, so that the survey taker will probably give up if it becomes too complex for them. So they want to simplify it as much as possible, and we felt that through, because we just finished through a senior services survey, and now we're working on this survey. So we've been kind of experts on surveys these past few months, and that was one of the things. Incomplete surveys are usually part of the final results, and we don't want to see incomplete surveys due to if it's a complexity for them, and even ranking sometimes is a complexity. So that being said, I'm bringing in that perspective of survey fatigue versus the survey logic, as
So-
they've been consulting us and letting us know
what
about.
the system or the program will allow someone just to not to mark anything in this one item and move on, like pass it without marking anything, or it would stop there, make you to choose an item and then move forward. You can't just pass without marking anything, correct?
That's correct. If you notice, next to the number on the question, there's a little star asterisk. That means it's a required, it requires an answer. And so each, like all 8 need to be selected in order for you to go through. You
I
need
see.
to
Okay.
rank it.
Thank you.
Since
Yes.
we're on the subject, that's what I was gonna say, it could be an issue. Let's say if I'm taking the survey and 1 through 8, and I'm reading one line at a time, so I said, okay, 1, 2, and then halfway down the questions, oh, well, this is more 2, so I gotta go change that and put this on 8, and then go further down, oh, wait a minute, this is more important. So I'm gonna have to do so many back and forth because it's too many line items. And as I read and click them, like, well, no, this is actually more important. I think it's too many questions to have options without, I mean, right now we check them, as you see, pretty much downtrend except the last part. But what if my number 2, it's employment services, it's 8, and then by the time I get to services for the disabled, I'm like, well, that's 8. Now I got to put that 8 and then move the other 8 somewhere else.
Iris, could you test that? What it will do is it will take whatever was, let's say, if you change that to 8, it will remove the item that you had at that level. So I think,
Now I need to go find a home for the one is removed. Not necessarily it's 2, so I can spend 30 minutes on this one page.
I wonder if this page, if listening to commission members' thoughts, would be better to be a different survey that for each you put a number of how important it is. Instead of ranking them compared to each other, you would put whether each line item is 1 or a spectrum of between 1 and 8.
Well, that goes back to what she's
Well, it would
saying.
be,
Everyone will
the
check mark 1.
individual pages. What you're suggesting is
No, I-
individual questions,
wouldn't-
one by one.
but unfortunately though, if you allow them to put a number, you can't stop somebody from putting 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 on
Yeah,
all of
exactly.
them. So that's why it's done that way, for it to change the previous one, which will then force you not to be able to proceed with the survey unless you click
And
on
it'll
one.
now be 1 through 9 because we're going to be adding domestic violence
Right.
services as well.
Right.
I mean, I think that there is a silver lining to making it difficult because they would have to put some thought into it.
But If we can go up, Iris, there is a example. So they do provide survey example. So it shows the survey taker how to do it.
I wasn't wondering the how, it's just
So it guides
as
them.
she check marked, it removed, right? Removed it, put it where the first check mark was, that we removed it. But I don't want it there, I want it in the second place, so it just.
I don't think a
took me
lot of
back.
people will put that much of an effort to going back and forth. Well, I think we're overthinking. I'm sorry to say, but if we're looking at the general public in who may take this survey, I don't think they'll go that detail of thinking each one of them as we're thinking right now, or overthinking it in a way.
Somehow we have to let them know, first read the questions, all of them, see which one is one.
Yes.
And then read
Yeah,
the
that's
rest again, which
different.
one, versus just read the first one, answer it, then read the second one, then you're gonna have to keep changing it.
I think that under the instructions, we could add saying that please review all items and then rank them relative to each other. So that the instruction is clear, so that they know that they have to put it in.
And one question, you might answer it at the end, but will this survey be available in other languages, or will it be just English?
It will definitely be available in Armenian and Spanish, and it's already been translated. It's
Oh, it's
already been
already- okay.
translated in Armenian and Spanish.
Okay, and again, one more question that you're going to ask, I'm sure you're going to answer it at the end, or you have the answer already. How are we going to get this available to general public? And people that don't necessarily follow the city council meetings or normal city events or whatnot.
You're going to see that in the program planning report, but I'll give you a little precursor. We are having a variety of meetings, community meetings, and different types of outreach efforts throughout the fall to get the survey out to the school district, to our seniors, to our, we're going to have a huge community event with free dinner and raffle prizes. And then we're going to attend at least 2 scheduled events that are going to be held on Saturdays for people who don't come in during the week. We can see them on the weekend. So there's going to be a lot of outreach effort for the consolidated plan
I see.
scheduled.
Quick, one other question on that subject, sorry. I know I'm diverting from the actual subject. The reaching out comments, all other that city events or city sponsored events, or not sponsored necessarily, like the Oktoberfest or those kind of things. Is that something that we may be, or it's doable, possible, logical, to have a booth over there and approaching people? Because we're going to have in a lot of those events, like we just had the the car show type of thing. Those events, they draw so many, and a lot of people do walk into those booths and look into it, especially when it's city pamphlets, things that we're passing. Maybe we should have, I don't know, tablets available, people just marking it there, right there, because there is no name or a registration involved with it, correct? It's just a regular survey, so
correct.
people will be comfortable taking it right off the street instead of, if they have to register in a sense. Maybe something that, if it's doable, I don't know if it's doable, allowable, whatever.
We'd have to
that
look
might-
into the date of Oktoberfest. I can speak to Cruise Night. This is something, again, Ms. Alexandria and I have discussed in the past. Cruise Night brings in 40,000, I believe, spectators and visitors. But of the 40,000, do they all live in Glendale?
No,
We're
of
going to
course
have lots of completed surveys which end at question number 2. So we want to make sure that we're getting Glendale residents or Glendale, people who reside, work, or go to school in Glendale.
Sure. Well, I mean, I understand that. I'm sure, I don't know.
The short answer is yes. We will be at some events like Fall Festival, right? That happens it's one of our events. But if there are other major special events where we have a community booth, like we have our booth that goes out with staff providing pamphlets and information, then the flyers for the survey, there will be a flyer with the QR code that takes them to the website. That information will be made available, and staff will encourage the public that's in attendance to take those surveys. We'll also look to put it in the GUSD Peach Jar, which will be an email that goes out to all parents and asking them to take the survey. So we will make efforts. All the community agencies will get, the information. So yes, the community agencies will also get the flyer, and we'll encourage them to share with the population that they're serving and display it at. It'll be available at all of our community centers. And so we're gonna do our best to try to outreach as much as we can, because this is the year for the comp plan, which becomes a 5-year plan. So that is something that we, Maggie and I have discussed, and we are going to do our best to try to outreach more so than the regular annual plan, because as we said, staff resources are generally where we can't be at every event and we can't go out to everything. If we were able to get this finalized and be done, I believe the last go around, we even attended back to school nights. So depending on, when we finalize this, and if we're able to hit some of those schools for back to school night, we'll even have a table there that will be able to outreach to parents that are bringing their kids. Because I remember 5 years ago, Eileen and Maggie were at some of the back to school nights at the elementary schools, making sure that we get the word out. So we do want your feedback, because clearly you guys are giving us things that we didn't even think about. So we do want to know, and Maggie will probably cover it more so in the next report, the outline of who and how we're going to outreach. And we'd love to hear from you if we've left off or haven't thought of an outreach method. And of course, you guys helping us to distribute that information as well.
Thank you.
I think all these options are great options, but I don't think anything beats the good old-fashioned mailer at home, even though it could be costly. But that's something, because not every senior has social media option, and not every disabled or senior has option to go to car shows, or they have kids back to school night. So I know a mailer, everybody gets it. So I don't know how many households we have actual mailers to go out, but I'm sure that will get everyone's attention.
That's a good point you make, Committee Member Garibian. We had just finished doing our senior needs assessment and senior needs survey, and part of that was getting us helping to tabulate those surveys. So outreaching to seniors, but having us be the liaison to help them input that information. And we did so as a community effort with our nonprofits, with our city staff, and we were able to reach 1,200 seniors that way. So that's a pretty good number.
That's a good start. Thank you.
No problem.
Sorry,
Let's-
continue.
Iris, if you can press, thank you, Iris. So the next section is public infrastructure, asking to rank the following public infrastructure needs to address Glendale in order of importance: sidewalk improvements, street and alley improvements, and neighborhood beautification projects and accessibility improvements. They will be in the next, you're going to see them in the next section, community facilities. So under community facilities, still the same thing, ranking indoor community centers, libraries, outdoor park and recreation facilities, and homeless day centers. Anything you think we're missing? And then this was done with our housing department, or housing division, I should say. Affordable rental housing rehab financial assistance, homeowner rehab financial assistance, home buyer financial assistance, rental security deposit assistance, lead testing and abatement, and then landlord incentive. What was ranking them in order of importance for Glendale residents?
Question, sorry. Lead testing and abatement, that is for tenants, for the homeowners, just general public? That's a little bit of,
To the person who's taking the survey.
because that's a little bit, I don't know, open-ended somewhat question. It just doesn't direct them. They might not even understand what that means.
Yeah, I guess the verbiage could be a little bit
Yeah.
tweaked. A lot of people is like, what's a lead base?
Exactly. I mean, I don't know if it's a lot, hard requirement or not, but.
Actually is, so
Is it?
lead, yeah, it
Use
is,
that
it's
verbiage,
actually
lead
a
The
HUD requirement.
question is withdrawn,
Yeah.
withdrawn.
I think that
I may have another one that's embarrassing, but I just want to focus on HUD and CDBG, right? The city has, or is the city interested in some of the answers that might be captured in this, for example, solar assistance? You know, I mean, it's like, I mean, we're way beyond, it's beyond basic housing and affordable housing. I mean, and I think that's the,
I think it falls under
that's
the third
the,
category.
the population that we are focused in. But I wonder if the city,
Rehabilitation
because they
financial
have such a
assistance,
big effort right now in trying to increase their solar, area map.
That's a great question. I'm looking under homeowner rehab financial assistance, and that could fall under homeowner rehabilitation financial assistance. So any type of rehab, even though solar panels, would that be considered rehab? Not technically, it
think
wouldn't be.
so.
But it would probably fall under that, but I can ask.
Okay.
That's a question I can ask.
Another question, sorry, something just came up to my mind. You just explained the rehab, financial assistance, okay, homeowners rehab financial assistance. When a general average person reads it, they may not exactly understand what falls in it, what is actually doable. Is it possible to link each one with a description of what that subject means before answering the question? You know what I mean?
same for landlord incentive. It's kind of unclear what it is. And also the rental housing rehab, the question would be whether it goes to the tenant or the landlord of rental property. So the descriptions I kind of find
If you
confusing
click on
and
it,
will
will
not.
open up a category.
I can ask our housing division, because these are their questions, but I can ask the housing division to see if they can clarify this a little bit better.
Well, I mean, is there a way on the program, my colleagues are saying, if you
Right, through
click on the
SurveyMonkey
program,
itself.
opens up
I
a
can ask
brief
our
description of.
consultant.
Small, I think it should be. I've seen it before. That gives you a different, it gives you explanation of the
Yeah, I-
question.
Yeah, that's
I believe
good.
it is possible to put like a footnote that would allow for that, or a link. So we can look into that.
Thank you.
Specifically for the housing section, the number
so
15
far.
question.
And the landlord incentive.
Yeah, I mean,
Is it section?
If we're doing one, we'll do all of them with a small one-liner.
Okay.
Thank you.
Excellent, okay. And then, so the next question again continues with our housing division, special needs housing. Rank the following: special needs housing needs to address Glendale in order of importance to you: housing for disabled, housing for seniors, emergency housing for homeless, permanent housing for homeless, housing for veterans, and housing for youth and foster youth. And I would like to say that this is not just a housing, we didn't just consult with our housing division, we also consulted with our homeless services section on this particular question. And then that ends the survey. And the survey, I think, is about 2 minutes, depending on how quickly people go through it, which, sure. Again, definitions, correct? You would like to see some, because I think that was the question that we had, to explain what permanent housing is versus emergency housing.
Because in order from what we understand and throughout a lot of programs, in order for us, we've gone through all the programs and all the agencies and stuff, in order for a homeless person to goes to that route to be a permanent housing, they have to go through a program. Or they can't just from homelessness become a permanent resident or
Like a permanent
Housed.
supportive housing, where they get
supportive
support
house. Something I
with
think
that.
says some verbiage or something that it will explain a little bit better in a sense, because it just doesn't work that way in real life. If someone goes to an agency and asks them, okay, yeah, you guys asked me this question and I'm here, I'm homeless and I'm looking for a permanent housing. I want a permanent house. They won't understand that, oh, I need to go through this process in order for me to get there. I think that might be, I don't know. Again, footnote maybe something that might work.
Chair Avedisian, and this is something that, you know, I was just thinking about as you asked your question is, and to address that, Maggie, I'm not sure if she has the answer, but some of this, like you said, is program-based versus actual housing inventory, right? So the question is number 16 looking to see for our housing section, what type of housing to build? Is it, you know, housing for disabled or to help fund to build? Or are we looking for programs which will allow them to go through the program to be able to eventually get to the living in a house? So, you know, that question came to my mind too, and I'm not sure if we have the answer from housing's perspective, because I'm assuming this is a housing question as well. You know, is the housing section, community development, looking to see where should the home funds be spent? Because this would be home funds more so than CDBG funds, because
Right.
the annual plan is inclusive of homeless services, CDBG, and home. So this is most probably like the physical inventory of where home funds should be spent. Should the millions that the city gets be put towards senior housing, disabled housing, or, you know, emergency housing for homeless, permanent housing? So it's probably the type of actual apartment buildings or buildings to construct with the funds that they get from home. So that's most probably what this question is for. But it does beg the question, because if someone's taking it and thinking, you know, I'm looking for social service funding that will help me with these types of situations, they might answer the question differently. So we probably should clarify that in the question, to your point. So we'll look at that and clarify it.
Thank you. All right.
And that concludes my presentation for the consolidated plan. Do you have any further questions regarding the consolidated plan and the update? And we will take all your considerations into our
Okay.
survey.
Okay, I do have one more question about the timeline. Are we, or when would the survey is ready to go out? Whatever, whenever that is planned to go out. And do we have a timeline of collecting them back and finishing the survey? Is it a 1 month time frame, 2 months, 3 months that we want to go out, market it, and that will determine or direct us how aggressive we market it in order for people reaching to the people? Is it gonna be, are we gonna leave it open for 6 months, so we're not as aggressive marketing it than if it's a 30 days time frame?
We hope, once all of these changes are updated and made, we hope to release it as soon as possible. So before, we would say September. But we need to close it by October, because we have to bring back the report to the committee at the end of October. So therefore, you're looking at about a month and 3 weeks, a month and a half, depending on how
Okay.
quickly we tabulate the results as well.
Okay, well, so with these changes and whatnot, realistically, you think we're now end of August, you realistically think that within a week or so, we can get this out?
Correct, because the SurveyMonkey, the program that they are working on
Right.
is already set up. We just can make changes, like I'll send the consultant these changes, and she'll update it immediately. She's been sending me changes that we just recently had as well. So those can be made immediately.
Okay, and I would highly suggest that whatever marketing ways that we're using to take it out, get it out to the public, I would suggest highlight the timeline and urgency of the timeline to respond real quickly, within the timeline. I think something that should be flashed maybe or something, I don't know, just to get the attention of the public. We want to get the most results that we can get, the answers we can get. If we just get 10, 20, 50 people that we have had some, other occasions, the very minimum, and it's not going to do us any good. The whole survey is useless in a way. It's very minimum. Thank you. Sorry.
Just,
Good. Go ahead.
we have public television. I mean, can we, have that a QR code right on the TV whenever they put it on, or, in the Glendale channel, all three of them? I know that very few people see that, but at least we would have tried to get the word out there, and maybe as students register, maybe GWP will carry it on their website, maybe somebody else, so, you have that QR, help Glendale set some goals for the next 5 years. So, thank you.
Putting down all those suggestions. Thank you so much.
Maggie, just a suggestion. Do you want to move to the program plan before? Or
Yeah, I was
it
thinking
might be
that
a
as
good
well.
segue. So if Chair Avedisian, if you're okay with, sorry, Nicole, taking the item out of order, that we could segue into the actual program plan, which looks at the timeline of when we plan on releasing the survey
okay.
and all of that now, and then go back to the social service report.
Oh, okay, sure.
Okay.
If anybody, I don't think anybody has a,
Be easier.
go for it.
Okay, that would be item 5, action items. At A, program planning schedule for the fiscal year 2025-2026, CDBG ESG and Home Annual Action Plan, and 2025-2030 Consolidation Plan. At 1 is a motion to approve the program planning schedule for the fiscal year 2025-2026, CDBG ESG and Home Annual Action Plan, and 2025-2030 Consolidated Plan.
Chair Avedisian, members of the advisory committee, we come to you each year with our program planning schedule for our action plan. However, as you know, this year we have the action plan included with our consolidated plan. So I'll get right into our PowerPoint. So our program planning schedule is starting in August and September. And in the fall, what we start doing is conducting data analysis of census, American Community Survey, and of course, what we presented to you, which was the City of Glendale Community Survey that we are going to be releasing soon. We also are going to be preparing and announcing upcoming community meetings for community agencies and residents to take part in. In today's meeting, we're presenting you with this report. And in September, on September 17th, we are going to be hosting a CDBG open house. We invite over 100 nonprofits in the area to attend. Now, this is usually to explain what CDBG is and how to apply for CDBG dollars, but this will also be part of the consolidated plan where we ask nonprofits what their thoughts are on the survey. And we open it up to the nonprofit providers to see what is of importance to them for Glendale residents in the community. So there'll be various community outreach efforts being done throughout the city of Glendale during September. And
Is this online? The September 17th is
the
online?
September 17th meeting is actually online, and there's a reason, because HUD is having an in-person meeting the next day, so many of the providers will not be able to attend both. So therefore, we had to do one that was virtual while we can attend the one with HUD on in person. So this came up very recently, as a matter of fact. We actually had it in person and had to reschedule that. For program planning for October, we're going to host a very large community meeting at the Adult Recreation Center on October 2nd at 6:30 p.m. We are bringing an In-N-Out truck, so we are going to be
Yay.
free dinners are going to be provided. We're going to have childcare services for free and raffle prizes, and we're hoping and anticipating at least 150 people attend and take that survey and partake in the questions and answers that evening, and we invite the committee to attend as well. Interestingly enough, we usually hold this meeting at Pacific Park Community Center, but the most recent census tract results show us that the Adult Recreation Center is now considered an extremely low-income area in the census tract just recently. So we've changed the venue, and we're going to see how that goes, and we invite everyone to attend.
Parking is the issue there.
Hopefully in the evening it won't be, hopefully. And on October 23rd, we're going to come back to our advisory committee meeting and approve the program priorities, approve the proposed funding allocation plan, and review the RFP instructions and online application. So that's something that we'll be doing in our next meeting and showing you hopefully the results of the survey and the data analysis. And in November, we hope to present the report to our City Council and Housing Authority to approve the draft version of the program priorities, the funding allocation plan, and the issuance of an RFP that will be done online with Zoom grants. And then staff will publish the 25-26 RFP notice in November. I believe Committee Member Manukian, you had that question, so we are going to be publishing the RFP notice in November. Mid-November. In December and January, December is when we're going to host our technical assistance workshop for prospective applicants applying for CDBG funding. This is going to be held on December 4th. This is when we provide a link to Zoom grants, and so those prospective applicants will learn about how to successfully submit a proposal and receive a link after they attend our workshop. And then January is really where we get to the work. So January 3rd will be the deadline for proposals to be submitted via Zoom grants. And staff will review and do an analysis of the funding proposals during this time this month. And then, of course, we'll put together a strengths and weaknesses analysis, and we'll email that back to the community agencies. And then a response will be provided from them via Zoom grants. So we'll have all of that documented and ready for the committee, because in February, the committee will start reviewing those proposals. And then we will also be working with our community development department. This is when we prepare the project descriptions for a CEQA environmental review. This is also part of the requirement. And then in February, on February 28th, 2025, we'll have an all-day CDBG advisory committee meeting to review the proposals, conduct interviews, and I will do my best to do it in one day if possible. But we always put in that tentative schedule, again, depending on the number of proposals we receive and our schedule permitting. We'll try our best to try and get it done on February 28th, so the committee doesn't have to come back on Monday, March 3rd. And then on March 4th, we will publish the list of projects recommended for CDBG funds and by the advisory committee. And then on April 3rd, we will host a public meeting regarding the projects recommended for funding by the CDBG advisory committee for 25-26. Again, we're going to host in person. We're shying away from virtual with residents. We're going to do just one, which is an in-person meeting. Again, at the Adult Recreation Center, we'll probably provide some incentives again, because we are noticing that if we do an in-person and virtual, either way we're losing numbers. So we'll rather just do one and do it well. And then in May, we will be going back to the City Council Housing Authority to approve the final funding recommendations, approve the 25-26 annual action plan, and the 25-30 consolidated plan, and that should be submitted by May 13th. And then again, we have to publish a 30-day comment period. This is a HUD requirement on the approved annual action plan and consolidated plan. And then staff will conduct program and financial monitoring that we do each year in May to CDBG-funded agencies who are currently receiving funds during the 24-25 year. And that's our team right here, Nicole and Tamar, who do that. And then in June and July, in June, we're going to submit the CDBG ESG and Home Annual Action Plan and Consolidated Plan to HUD, and we'll start implementation of our new program year in 25-26 on July 1st. Any questions regarding the program planning process?
Any question? Any questions, committee? No one? No? Thank you for the report.
This is a action item. If you are okay with the dates and the layout of the schedule.
I move the motion to.
We have a motion. Second. Roll call, please.
Committee members Armenian, absent. Garibian,
Yes.
Quinones Gabrielian,
Yes.
Vice Chair Manukian,
Yes.
Chair Avedisian.
Yes.
Motion carries. And I'm sorry, was that Quinones Gabrielian that seconded, or?
Second, yes.
Yes, okay, thank you. Okay, so now we will go back to item 4C, year-end performance report for fiscal year 2023-2024 social services programs.
Chair Avedisian, members of the advisory committee, I'm going to introduce Nicole Ordebegyan. She is our project manager for our public social services programs. She's been working with us for about a year and a half, and she will do our presentation.
Thank you and welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair, committee members, city staff. I'll be talking about the funding, how it's been spent down, all of the participants, and each agency's goals and outcomes. As a note for the committee, you'll notice that all 10 of the agencies we received funding, and they all spent 100% of everything that they were received for this fiscal year. And so the presentation will primarily focus on their agency's goal and their outcomes. So first, we have Essencia's Homeless Outreach Case Management Program. They were proposed to serve 35 individuals, and they served those 35 as well. By the end of their fiscal year for their first outcome, they said that 25 out of 35 individuals were contacted by their homeless outreach and will enroll in Essencia's Access Center. Their goal was 25 individuals, and they reached a year-end status of 35. And for their second outcome, they had 13 out of 25 individuals enrolled in the Access Center will access mainstream resources such as food stamps, job training, employment, substance abuse treatment, and healthcare. Their goal was 13 individuals, and they ended up serving 21. Next, we have Catholic Charities of Los Angeles' Glendale Community Center's Loaves and Fishes program. Their proposed number to be served was 35 households, and they served 35 households as well. For their first outcome, of the 35 households served by the program, 74% or 26 households will receive aid in the form of goods from the food pantry, rental assistance program, and or any utility assistance program within 3 months of entering the program. And their goal was 26, and they reached 35 individuals. For their second outcome, they had, of the 35 households served by the program, 31% or 11 households will maintain an active link to auxiliary services, whether that be mainstream resources, health and mental health, behavioral health, substance abuse, employment services, and legal services. Their goal was 11 households, and they reached the year-end status of 35. Next, for Glendale Youth Alliance's Youth Employment Program, they were proposed to serve 20 youth, and they served 22 youth in the end. For their first outcome, they were saying that of the 20 youth served, 100% or 20 youth will earn income by working a minimum of 100 hours. Their goal was 20 youth, and they ended the year with 22. And for their second outcome, of the 20 youth that were served, 30% or 6 youth will be referred to community agencies based on their individual needs. Their goal was 6 youth, and their year-end status was 8 individuals. There we go. Next, we have Home Again Los Angeles' Housing Support for Homeless Families program. They were proposed to serve 30 households, and they actually ended up serving 46. as a total. For their first outcome, by the end of the fiscal year, of the 30 unduplicated households served by the program, 67% or 20 households will be enrolled in crisis housing within the first 30 days of connecting to Home Again LA. Their goal was to serve 20 households, and they ended up serving 39. Now, for their second outcome, by the end of the fiscal year, of the 30 unduplicated households served by the program, again, 67% or 20 households will transition into stable housing within 12 months. Their goal was 20 households, and by the end of the year, they had served 39. Next, we have Door of Hope. They have the mental health and case management services for survivors of domestic violence. They were proposed to serve 32 participants, and they actually ended up serving 89, which is well above what they needed to do. And for their first outcome, of the 32 adults, children, and teens served by the program, 24 out of 32 participants, or 75%, will report improved mental health as indicated by decreased anxiety and or depression in adults and increased socio-emotional growth and coping skills in children and teens by way of assessments by the end of the fiscal year. Their goal was 24, and they ended up serving 30. And for their second outcome, of the 22 adults served by the program, 73% or 16 will increase their income and or their savings measured by case managers on a quarterly basis. Their goal was 16 individuals, 16 adults more specifically, and their year-end status was 21. Next, for housing rights centers, their Glendale Fair Housing Program, they proposed to serve 350 households, but ended up only serving 223. As a note for their funding as well, CDBG awarded them $10,150, but they also get an additional $10,000 from the housing division as well. So that's a total of $20,150. But they expended the entirety of all that $20,150. And for their first outcome, HRC will host 2 housing rights workshops for the city of Glendale, one for tenants and one for landlords. And it'll measure the effectiveness of the workshops using survey evaluation forms, demonstrating that 85% of the attendees will rate that workshop as being useful. And they did both workshops, and all were rated as being useful to the participants as well. And for their second outcome, HRC will file 7 fair housing complaints by Glendale residents and successfully conciliate 3 fair housing open cases for investigation by the end of the fiscal year. Their goal was to do 3 cases. Oh, yeah, sorry, my mistake. Their goal was to serve 3 cases, and their year-end status was 12 total. So they went above the whole requirements. For next, we have Armenian Relief Society of Western USA. This is their community outreach project. They proposed to serve 185 individuals, and they actually ended up serving 189. For their first outcome, of the 90 seniors that were enrolled in ESL classes, 90% or 81 individuals will demonstrate improved English language competency by 40% determined through a pre- and post-test assessment. Their goal was 81, and they ended up serving 91 for this outcome. For their second outcome, of the 40 individuals who receive employment services, 55% or 22 individuals will secure employment within 3 months of intake. Their goal was 22, and they ended up serving 20 that met this outcome. Next, there's the Committee for Armenian Students in Public Schools, also known as CASPS. They were proposed to serve 44 students and ended up serving 43. And for their first outcome, of the 44 students served at 2 sites, 35 or 80% will show significantly reduced incidence of aggressive behavior by the end of the fiscal year by way of pre- and post-test. Their goal was 35 students, and they served 35 as well. And for their second outcome, of the 44 students served at the 2 sites, 35 individuals or 80% will show significant improvement in following directions and academic responsibility by way of a psychologist's notes and progress reports to show their students' progress throughout the program activities by the end of the fiscal year. Their goal was 35 individuals, and they also met that 35. Next, we have YWCA Glendale and Pasadena. We have their mental health services for survivors of domestic violence. Now, they proposed to serve 25 students, and they ended up serving 53. For their first outcome, they have, of the 15 women served by the program, 15 or 100% will complete the 12-week support group program by the end of the fiscal year. Their goal was 15, and they ended up serving 43. Now, of the 10 children for their second outcome served by the program, 8 of them will complete 8 individual counseling sessions by the end of the fiscal year. Their goal was 8, and they ended up only doing 6 out of the 8. And for our final agency, we have the Armenian Bar Association. For their pro bono clinical legal services, they proposed to serve 12 individuals and ended up serving 53. For their first outcome, out of the 12 participants served by the clinic, 75% or 9 people will receive a resolution to their matter by the end of the fiscal year. Their goal was 9 and ended up serving 37 of those cases. And for their second outcome, 3 of the 12 people that they serve, 25%, who seek legal services from the subrecipient, also known as the agency, they'll have learned of the service through the agency's social media outreach efforts. Their goal was 3 individuals, and they ended the year with 6. And that's it for the public social services. So if you all have any questions, I'd be more than happy to take them now.
Thank you very much. It
Thank
was
you.
very detailed as usual. I don't know if anybody has any questions, comments.
May I just,
One second.
may I be excused, Mr. Chair and members of the committee and staff? Thank you very much. Great reports. And I'm going to catch you. I'm going to catch the rest of the show later. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, good luck. Bye-bye.
The record
You're
will
right,
show
sir.
that Committee Member Quiñones Gabrielian left the meeting at 3:51 PM.
Thank you. Okay, committee, go ahead.
I was just going to make the comment that I'm so impressed and happy with the results. The money that, I mean, it's not big amounts, but the impact that it has on these social services and how they're maximizing that money and exceeding the expectations is to be commended. So I'm very happy about that. I think that these are great organizations to fund in the future because we're getting our results. And I thank the staff for the assistance that the staff has provided to these agencies to do their job.
Thank you.
First, Nicole, welcome and great job. Thank you. Very nice. Yeah, I was just gonna follow up as far as just piggyback on my colleague. The agency is doing a great job, but at the same time, I don't know how we can ask for more. Do we have to go Washington? Who goes? What do we do? I mean, we need to ask for more money, and every penny counts, especially in the agencies as such. Is there a procedure? Is there certain, or, I mean, what's?
Campaign HUD.
I mean, do we have to campaign? Is it local? It has to be HUD, federal only?
Chair Avedisian, members of the advisory committee, there's 2 ways to look at it, the macro and micro level. At the top level, Congress makes that decision to fund CDBG programs. They're discussing leaving it at level, so we know that it'll be at a level state. But then when we get down to the nitty-gritty and go into into City of Glendale, it's formula funding. So we have about 1,200 entitlements throughout the nation. That being said, if we get additional cities hopping on and being part of CDBG, that'll probably reduce our funding as a whole. But again, formula funding means they look at population statistics, the housing stock, the age of our housing stock, and then lastly, they look at poverty levels. And our poverty levels haven't really increased too much since COVID. It's been a slight increase from, I believe, 13.4% to 13.9%. So we continue to look at those statistics because that's how we gauge the estimate of what we anticipate we're going to receive. Again, we feel confidently that we're going to most likely receive 1.7 million based on what HUD is telling us and how Congress is going to move forward. Now, with these particular funds, there's a 15% cap. So on that 1.7 million, we still have a 15% cap. And that might be where your suggestion comes in. Can we possibly raise the cap? That also means to reduce the capital improvement project numbers. So that's something to look at in the future, for sure. And I think this has been a discussion that most agencies throughout the nation have had. How can we increase that cap from 15% to up to 25% to help our nonprofits throughout
Interesting. I had asked that question actually some time ago. I don't remember when, but I had asked, I think at one point, if I'm not mistaken, my memory is not that great, but that we were stuck with that number. We weren't able to change that number at one point. I don't know if the things changed or,
Well, it's
is there a way we can suggest something like that?
We are part of National Community Development Association, and they are the folks that fight for the CDBG program recipients. And we usually funnel all our questions through them, and they are technically lobbyists, and they seek results from what the grantees tell them. And again, this has been something that's been on the forefront for a long time, and especially during COVID, when all of those restrictions were pretty much waived during those 2 years, and we were able to give out lots of money to our public social services agencies. That subject has been on the forefront, discussed, and we're still awaiting some sort of news on how we can get a little bit of a bump on that cap.
The poverty level, is that a nationwide, local, is it
This is City of
counties?
Glendale.
City of
Yeah,
Glendale.
we look at the formula is the poverty level, which is 13.9% right now, as City of Glendale. It used to be up to 15%. 15% also means we get more money, but our population has gone down. Our population used to be 199,000, now we're at 189,000. That makes a huge difference as well in the formula.
And since I'm on the mic on, this is a waste of time and paper and everything else. And we discussed it many times. I can't read it, too small. I think you guys we have to come up with a solution. I would love to read it. I'll read it on my PC, but sometimes I want to put notes, ask questions, go back, and it's just, I don't know if my colleagues are okay with it, but
Change
for
your
me,
glasses.
it doesn't matter, actually.
Committee member Garbedian, we are working with Zoom grants. I actually outreached to them regarding the specific portion of our presentation that we do mid-year and at the end of the year. So we will be working on a way to get you a better looking report and hopefully more visible, because I have the same problem. So I will definitely look into it and see if Zoom grants could provide that. Now that we have Zoom grants, and we'll have results to plug into Zoom grants this first year.
Great, thank you. Going back to the question of the social services. Oh, sorry, you could sit down. You don't need to stand.
if you need.
Our questions goes on. Now, can you give us a direction if there's really a committee-wise, our committee, we are able to make any suggestions and have any asks, whether it goes to the city council or whatever direction that might do any help and change of seeing the possibilities of changing the social service percentage, if there is a way at all?
Chair Avedisian, the funding is done through the federal level, not through the city level.
Right.
What we can do is maybe write a joint statement and maybe submit that to our NCDA association. So when they're lobbying, they can provide nationwide, again, X number of cities are requesting additional dollars for public social services. Is there a way to raise that cap? But again, like I said, raising the cap lowers the cap for, there is no cap for capital improvement, but it will lower the number of dollars in capital improvement.
I understand that, but I think those social services, the way we see in all these organizations, they're doing such a great job, and it's really heartbreaking for us committee members. We're sitting here looking at it, and I've been looking at it for so many years, that it's every time it comes to that motion, I have a emotional roller coaster that whole day, and I'm not well when I leave here, because I know how much money, how much little money we have, and how much of a need the community needs. It's not the organizations, of course, the need of the community and all those that needs those funds. So that's why I keep asking, if there, if that's what it takes. If you would, maybe if the committee, my colleagues are agreeing with me, maybe we should draw a letter, maybe if you would, next meeting, bring us a letter if we can approve it, whatever the direction is, and then we'll at least try it. So we'll see. I'm sure the organizations will be happy about it too.
We'll be more than happy to do that.
Okay,
I
thank
think
you
so
very
too,
much. What's
yeah.
next, please?
Next is adjournment.
That's it?
Move to adjourn.
Oh. We got a motion to adjourn?
We don't need a motion.
Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Great job.
Yes.